1949 Meteor and a 1951 Meteor. YouTube user 1, my friend Brian, is looking at maybe taking this one home. Look at this dash. That is so cool. It's pretty solid. Yeah, obviously needs work, but both cars are really remarkably complete. Whoop. Oh, come on. There we go. Little flathead V8s. Overdrive transmission. Fantastic. This is cool. Old Ford custom cab over. Is it unlocked? Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. Beautiful. The boys say they got all the manuals for it and everything. Ha. Used to be kind of a bronzy gold color at one time. I think that's original. Cool. So cool. After a long night of wrenching for a living, what better thing to do when you come home than more wrenching? The Odyssey's back. So this van has kind of a cold running issue. It's really common to these Honda V6s, but they don't throw any codes and there's nothing definitive as to what it is. So I don't like to just throw parts at things. It's got about 225-ish thousand kilometers on it. The change interval on the spark plugs is 168,000, so it's a little bit over. And also, as far as we know, the timing belt has never been done. And these are interference engines. So if you don't know, an interference engine just simply means that if the timing mechanism fails, whether it's a timing chain or timing belt, that's what times your crankshaft to your camshafts. And if it fails, on a non-interference engine, you're just dead on the side of the road. On an interference engine, you're looking at a minimum of rebuilt cylinder heads. And if that sounds expensive, that's because it is. So we're going to look after that. I've never done one of these. I did buy the special tools to do so. Watched some videos. There's actually quite a few really excellent YouTube videos on how to do it. So this is not going to be a how-to video at all. It's just going to be, it'll just be me doing it. You know, I sort of complained earlier about coming home and doing more wrenching, but you know what? This is a choice that I make. I'm not obligated to do this work at all. It's mutually beneficial. You know, van belongs to a really great friend. Her daughters are fantastic. They're good friends of my daughters. My daughters ride in this van sometimes, so it behooves me to make sure that everyone who goes in it is safe and secure, and you know, puts a little bit of money in the kitty for parts for projects like the Gilson still sitting here, and the Everest still sitting there, and you know, it buys go through a lot of cat food around here too, little piggies. So let's get started. Alright, so I have this jacked up pretty high, simply because that way, when I'm underneath it, if it decides to fall on me, it kills me outright instead of just maiming me. I'm just kidding, actually. It's just so that when I retorque the crank pulley bolt, it's torqued to 181 pound-feet of torque, which I know to you automotive guys sounds like quite a lot. So it's going to be a fair pull though. So the higher I get it off the ground, the easier that's going to be. Now I don't really expect that these spark plugs are going to fix our cold running issue. I'd be surprised if it did, but certainly it's a maintenance issue that does need to be looked after. I'm hoping at least it will improve matters a little bit. Despite how kind of awkward these are to get at in some ways, as far as the home mechanic goes, changing spark plugs, there's worse out there than these. That's for sure. If you're fairly confident in your skills, you can certainly tackle this with just some basic tools. It's important to have the engine cold. You do not want to strip out these spark plug holes because these have been in here so long. We're hoping this comes out okay. It felt okay. We'll find out in a moment here. So there we are. Now, we'll just compare it to the new spark plugs, and while we're on the subject, I'm not really one to say that one manufacturer is better than another, and I have a pretty healthy respect for Honda. The Honda engine is hopefully going to power a Dutchman to F1 World Championship this year, which is pretty exciting. Their outdoor power equipment, like their quads and their small engines, are fantastic. And their vehicles, they build very solid, serviceable vehicles, if, in my opinion, a little bit bland. But I gotta call them to task for this one. Most would say that in terms of quality, Honda's better than Jeep. Hands down, no questions. But Jeep did one thing on the Patriot. They used really inexpensive spark plugs. Copper core, basic spark plugs, and they made them easy to change. And you change them every 50,000 kilometers. These spark plugs last 168,000 kilometers. So in that 168,000, I'm going to change mine 3 times, 3 and a bit. All 4 of those spark plugs cost less than one of these, and there's 6. So I can do my 3 spark plug changes, which only take about 15 minutes, for less than half the cost of these spark plugs. So I don't think that's very cool. But definitely the gap on the old plug is opened up. Color is nice, so I think I don't see any issues here. So that should help. A little bit of anti-seize on the threads. 16 pound-feet of torque, so not very tight going back in. And we'll reassemble. And here is the last spark plug. Honestly, in my experience with Hondas, everything looks pretty daunting, but when you get into it, it's really not that bad. And this is no different. I'd happily do this job again. You know, access to the rear spark plugs, as you might expect, is not stellar. They're way back down under here, but there is access, which is more than you can say for some manufacturers. Front ones are really actually very straightforward. So really at home, if you got a few tools handy, the engine's cooled off, and you're not too busy filming or drinking a whole lot of beer, without pushing very hard at all, this might be an hour job. I'm sure if you did this for a living, it's a piece of cake. Alright, so this is where we're working. Most of the videos I watched gave only the briefest mention of removing the fender liner, and I suspect that's because it sucks, and you're just going to have to accept that there's a certain amount of hardware that's going to get broken. And so I'm going to have to pick some of that up tomorrow. But there is our accessory drive belt that's going to have to come off, and underneath all of that is our timing belt. But that is a problem for another day. So by way of an update on the Odyssey, some of the videos I watched previously, the engine wasn't equipped with this little stepper motor. So you can see I've removed the power steering pump. It's still connected back there on the hose. I just removed this hose and capped it. That's this hose here that connects to the reservoir. So I've just tucked it out of the way and plugged it so we don't lose all the fluid. I did have to just briefly dismount this little stepper motor to get the pump out of the way, and then I put it back on without moving anything, so you know, so that nothing's disturbed there. So after this, you can see we'll be heading inside here. So upper timing belt cover, one here as well, those will come off. Motor mount has to come off. You can see I've got the accessory drive belt off, so tensioner's got to come off, and the crank pulley down there. And once we've got that and the lower timing cover off, we're pretty much ready to change the belt. So it is coming along bit by bit. Well, didn't even break a sweat.